Hello, welcome or welcome back. At the request of commenter Baron Von BoomBoom, in today's video we're going to revisit a ship I did way back in Season 1. And that is my Snow, the Almighty. Now my first Snow build was honestly pretty good, and I hadn't changed it much since Season 1. Even with the newer furniture that had been coming out over the recent seasons, I pretty much kept it exactly the same. But with the addition of a few new self-healing weapons during our last two events, I realized that with a few tweaks, I may be able to create a tank that can outlast almost anything the game can throw at it. So that's what we've done here today. This Snow not only has high brace strength thresholds, but if you do take any damage, it can self-heal its whole health and severe hull damage while either attacking or bracing. Two things I think that you do quite a bit in this game. So since the Snow can address brace strength pretty well on its own, our focus with this build is going to be buffing the self-healing with our weapons and armor while using furniture pieces to help with the crew stamina drain. One of our ship's main perks is called Tenacity. This is going to help because it allows the Snow to recover brace strength by 5% per second while bracing. This also increases brace strength by 150% and brace strength recovery by 100%. We're going to include the water tank furniture piece because this will reduce crew stamina depletion by 50% while we are bracing, while also increasing our overall stamina recovery by 20%. The company Spirit's Locker will buff this even more by increasing our brace strength armor by another 15% and boosts our armor rating up 7%. Oh, and if we were ever hit by any status effects, we'll have a reduction to our crew's stamina depletion at the start of bracing for damage by 20%. This allows us to brace back to back more often or hold our brace longer with less of a penalty. And when we are under attack, the medicine cabinet will kick in because this will reduce our crew stamina depletion by 20%. And working full time is going to be an increase to the stamina recovery we get at 8% and an increase to our max stamina overall by 5%. Next, we will increase our crew stamina recovery speed by another 13% and increase our max stamina another 5% with the Lamari Makinon 1. There is a Torn Sails charge speed boost here, but as usual, we aren't really worried about that when we use this furniture piece. And we also have two more furniture pieces to add in, but we're going to circle back to that in just a minute. The weapons we are featuring this time around are the new Halloween and Christmas event cannons that were just added in. We have the Heliport Culverins and the Nashcar long guns. Both of these weapons have perks that will heal the user while damaging others. We have Ghastly Mending on the long guns and Phantom Mending on the Culverins. Phantom Mending is a little bit different. This will let the Culverins heal us for 10% of the damage dealt from our broadside weapons. Ghastly Mending is going to give us back 5% of the damage dealt from our bow, but if we hit a weak point, we get back 700% instead of 5. Now, 5 and 10% returns don't sound like a lot, but if you do the math, it is slightly more impressive. 5% of your long gun damage is going to give you about 203 health per shot, and 10% of the Culverin damage you do should give you about 180 health per shot. If you hit a weak point with the long guns, your 700% health return should be about 6,907 per shot. And then with 2 shots per volley coming from the bow, you can heal either 406 whole health, or if you hit a crit spot 2 times, you should be able to heal 13,814. With your broadside, you have 7 shots coming off per volley. That means you can heal 1,256 whole health from just your sides. And if we added everything up in the best case scenario, hitting every shot from your port, then your bow, then your starboard, you'd be looking at 2,936 whole health repaired at once with a full volley without tagging any weak points. But that is where our ship selection and armor are going to come into play. See, with the Snow at ship upgrade level 6 of 6, you get a perk called Vindictive, and it will increase your weapon damage by 20% for 20 seconds after bracing against any incoming damage. So if we run those numbers back, you get 244 per shot for the long guns with a total of 488 whole health repaired from the bow. If you hit a weak point with the long guns here, your 700% health return would be 7,476 per shot. maxing out at 14,952. On the broadsides, we get 217 per shot with a total of 1,518 whole health repaired from the broadsides. And if we take a non-crit shot from every spot again, we have a total of 3,524 whole health that could be repaired at once with a full volley. Keep in mind that all these numbers, other than the 700% weak point numbers, are coming from non-weak point damage numbers. So if you happen to hit all crit shots on some things, then of course you are getting far more healing all the way around. And that can be some impressive healing if you happen to pull it off. Now, some of you out there may be thinking that the constant repair numbers you're seeing here are pretty low. But keep in mind that you can heal your ship with this every single time you reload your weapons instead of using a repair kit. That way you can save those kits for if you get into a bad spot and need a major instant heal. The rest of the time you can just rely on this instead of waiting for that god-awful cooldown time. To increase our self-healing even more and to assist with severe damage, we take a quick sidestep to our armor, the Ouroboros. Now this armor will convert 15% of the damage that you braced against into whole health repair, allowing you to heal any damage that you have recently taken while you are bracing against damage that you are currently taking. This works super similar to the ship perks that you find on the bark, just a bit less effective. And a bonus here is the 100 severe damage that you can restore every second, making sure that your ship fully recovers from anything that you get into, including being sunk. Now what we're doing with our last two pieces of furniture here may work for some of you, and for others it may not. Because of this reason, I will give some extra suggestions. But first, we are going to increase our broadside damage even more with the port and starboard powder kegs. These two pieces of furniture will give us 10% more damage out of our culverins, putting our whole health repaired at 199 per shot before the damage increase we get from bracing, and then at 397 after. Our totals will be 1,393 whole health repaired per volley before bracing, and it'll put you at 2,779 whole health repaired from the broadsides per volley after bracing, making the most health that we can get from a non-crit attack from every position at 3,270 whole health repaired before we have to reload again. What this all boils down to is just more incoming health when repairing the hull, but if you find yourself, wanting to further buff your damage resistance or even your crew stamina reduction, well then you can try out a couple of other things. You have the Leather Station 1. This reduces a blaze and most of its effects. You have the Company Screens, which reduces incoming AoE or area of effect damage. You have the Scooper Station 1 or Scupper Station 1, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but this reduces crew stamina depletion when flooding, so if you're, flooded a lot, this will help. Beam Supports, this will just increase the whole health and armor, or the Braced Gun Walls or Gun Whales. This reduces damage while you're anchored. Again, I'm not using these, but a solid recommendation for you if you don't like where I'm going with the main parts of the build. Now, when it comes to your stern and auxiliary weapons, go with what works best for you here. I personally want to put another Nashcar on the stern, but right now I only have the one. And for auxiliary, I am testing out the Blight Keeper at the moment. It has some pretty good utility since it can protect you while you heal if things really go south, but I am always a fan of the Warhammer for almost any situation or build if you just need a nice banging ass piece of equipment. And another thing I will recommend with this build will be a certain food. This is the first food recommendation I am making with the build, but if you have seen our videos here before, then you have seen this meal. It is the Invisi na Nayama meal, I believe that's how you say that, and you are seeing it on the screen now. The ingredients are simple. We have bananas, raw chicken, and water flasks. The flasks and chicken can be purchased at St. Anne or Talak Panjara, and you can farm the bananas or the Indisi off the coast of Africa. This meal will buff the build even more because we're getting another increase to our brace strength by 10%, and we increase our stamina regen while reducing our brace strength consumption at the start of bracing both by 30% when we eat this meal for 30 whole minutes. Not a bad thing to have, especially because you can top it off every time it runs low. Now, I did want to tell you this build took a little longer for me to make than usual because of the drop rate of the crystals needed to purchase the long guns, so you may run into this same problem. Now, honestly, I could have did the video without the cannons equipped and only shown you the math of what could have been possible, but who really wants to see a bunch of math without any proof? Plus, I wasn't even sure that the health returns would be good enough to lean into this playstyle until I saw them myself. So, good thing they were, otherwise we'd just be working with another damage resistance only build. But since this one does have some good offense, I can still take my snow to fort plunders, especially even more now since this setup can let you take on almost any base without too much help. Now, I don't particularly love it for bosses this season because they are super inconsistent, at least for me. Sometimes I can tank their larger attacks with absolutely no problems, but then other times I get washed and dried so quick I'm not even sure what happened. Now, I only say that for those of you who see this build's effectiveness in the video and then take it into a boss fight and see not so stellar results. Hey, keep using the build because it may not be the build that failed you here. You may just could have been subject to a few bugs plaguing these seas this season. But hey, that is it for me. I have been Captain Cash the Stampede. Thank you for coming out, and as always, we will see you out there in those plague-filled seas. Take it easy, folks.